Hartford Online Radio Network. onthehorn.com.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to News Talk Tonight, the February 5th edition. You're listening to On the Horn, onthehorn.com. You can catch us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We are brought to you by Amazon.com, Gateway Financial Partners, Sandits Travel, Sherpa Technologies, Budwitz and Meyerjack CPAs, Deepwater Seafood of Avon, and CentralCTDental.com. I'm Dave Moore, your host, and I'm joined tonight by Brian Lee. Good evening, Brian.
Hello, what's going on?
Woohoo! Well, you know, there's some interesting stuff going on, but I'm gonna step out for a second and basically say this was probably one of the best Super Bowls that I've seen in years.
I will go with it was a great second half.
Yes.
The first half, it had gotten away from him. And if you listen to Jim Nantz during the telecast, he's going to tell you the minute that the lights went out, the game completely changed. I don't know if that's true or not.
No, I don't think so.
I think maybe they just got fired up about giving up a 109-yard run back. And I think Harbaugh pulled him, Jim pulled them together and said, "Hey guys, you got to pull your heads out of your tuchus and let's get playing." And I think they did.
And the other thing is too, did you notice that partway through the fourth quarter, the NFL bigwig said, "It's not 109, it's 108. Sorry, you only tied this."
Yeah, you just tied.
Come on, really?
I want a measurement on that one because it looked like his foot was on the back line.
It was within a foot of the back line.
It really looked like it. That was one of the, and he only beat one guy.
Oh yeah,
that's it. He made one juke move in that entire thing. I was just like, what?
And that was by the 25 or the 30,
Yep.
and then he was off to the races.
That guy runs like a gazelle. I haven't seen a stride like that in years.
Now, what did you think about the officiating?
I thought it was okay. I didn't have a problem with that last call, the one everybody's complaining about.
I did.
They both had their hands on each other.
Yes, they did. But
the problem, my issue is this. Jim Harbaugh's looking for the call. His guy initiates the contact.
Yes.
You initiate the contact. He then gets it. Plus, it was within the 10 yards. So
yeah,
he gets to get his hands on you.
the initial contact was at the 5.
Yeah.
The follow-up contact
was
in the end zone.
It was in the end zone.
Okay. That's where I have the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. If it was hand slapping all over the place at the 5-yard line, that's a no call.
Sure.
But they didn't quite break the clinch so much, but it's clear that the defender was getting the better of the offensive guy by the time they were waltzing in the end zone. And it was clear. We have a call coming in. Let's see if I have the right. There we go. Would this be Brian?
Hello, can I get a large pizza delivered?
Even though this is News Talk Tonight, we were actually talking the Super Bowl. And,
it's Sports Talk Tonight right now.
And you're calling in for a pizza strike? Really? Please.
I want some wings. I want some hot wings.
I did not have hot wings last night. I was surprised.
Burritos with the goat. I want the goat too. I got a lot of grease in my house. There's Windex, and now I need Windex and I need goat.
A little something that we discussed off air, so to speak, was the Doritos commercial. They had 4 of them, and they were running a contest as to which of the 4 were the best. The winner, by 200,000 votes plus, was Goat for Sale. Now, what is interesting is, and let me set the table, last June, prior to graduation, some seniors decided as a prank that they would put 4 pygmy goats on the roof alcove over the front entrance of the Simsbury High School. Now flash forward, the producer of Goat for Sale is one of those Simsbury High School grads.
I love that.
Gee, what inspired that one?
I love that stuff.
Now, think about this.
I can't even remember the other Dorito commercials. What other ones were there?
There was the one where Daddy was playing dress-up princess with his daughter and the other guys.
The guys came in, yep.
And then the wife comes in and says, "Is that my wedding dress?" That was good. I like that one. But Go for Sale, I thought, had it hands down. And
Yeah, I don't even remember the other ones. But
No, I don't
the
remember the
Goat
other two
one,
at
that was
all.
the one actually I think I don't even know. Were we talking about it in the Blue Show or maybe it was the Business Show?
Yeah, no, we were talking about it on the Blue Show.
Yeah, okay. But
And-
that's the one I like the best. There were some other good ones too.
yes. As a serious ad, I like the Paul Harvey Farmer ad.
Thought it was great.
That was reminiscent for me of the Clint Eastwood "Detroit is Coming Back" commercial last year.
Not the Clint Eastwood talking to the empty stool.
No,
Oh,
and the
different
great,
Clint Eastwood.
And the great thing is, Paul Harvey can't talk to a chair. He's dead.
You can't talk to anything.
Yeah. Well, he could talk to us, but we might not be listening. But I like the Clydesdale one. That really was the best of the second half commercials as far as I was concerned. By then,
Was this the one where the Clydesdale was like being raised and the trainer like finally
Yep.
gives it up to Budweiser and it was that one?
yes. Yes, that was the
I
one.
didn't actually see that during the Super Bowl, but I saw it 4 or 5 days ago.
Yeah, I love those pre-release ads. You know, you're building up all this momentum and this pressure for the ads, and what do? 5 days ahead of time. Take a look at this one. What?
We got up on Thursday, and I think the one that Volkswagen one that I was laughing about, the Land of 10,000 Lakes, man, that was hysterically funny. But when it comes on Sunday, it's lost all the punch, and I'll leave the room. I don't need to stay around for that.
There was critique on that one about whether or not there was a racial undertone. I tend to disagree with that.
There was nothing racial about that. That was hysterically funny.
Well, when you think about how the Jamaican patois is really a slave patois,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was the white guys that helped create that patois, that accent, you could say, all right, maybe it's inappropriate. But when you have the Asian guy leaning out, also doing the Jamaican
Right.
patois, you really cannot say that there was a racial undertone at all.
Can't we get away from race? Can't we just laugh at each other?
Can't we all
Can't
just
we
get along?
Can't we just have fun? Can't we just see something for what it is instead of trying to read all these deep-seated things into it? It was a funny ad.
Don't diss the boss man now. Just saying.
Yeah, the Land of 10,000 Leagues, man. Makes me
The
laugh.
views expressed by Brian Lee and Dave Moore on the horn are not necessarily those of the network.
Did either of you see the Sandy Hook kids sing?
No, I did not. I wasn't in the room. That was early on, right?
It was like 5 minutes before the national anthem.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was in the kitchen
What
doing
was
some
it?
cooking.
How did I miss it?
The Sandy Hook students, these were elementary students, primarily from the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades, who had gone to Sandy Hook Elementary, were singing "America the Beautiful." And,
I saw this late. I didn't see it live. I don't know what I was doing right before the game, but
and Ms. Hudson came in partway through, and they sang through it again. Only this time they were doing the backup, and they did great on their quote solo, all 30 of them, and then were fantastic as Ms. Hudson's backup singers. The great thing about this is the entire stadium was mic'd. They didn't drop the mics down on everybody but the singers. They were all up. It was silent.
Oh wow!
They were all respectfully listening to these kids sing, and I thought that was the greatest tribute. 110,000 people were completely silent for these kids to perform.
Wow!
And they did, and they knocked it out of the park. They did fantastic. And I thought that was one of the instances of the NFL getting things right, because this was part of the start of the primetime televising of the game, and they made sure that there were plenty of people who were actually sitting watching the TV, not just sitting in the stands. And I got to tell you, my kids will tell me that I cry at the drop of a hat. I was crying at the end of that because it was beautifully done. It was awesome. And kudos to those kids because they just knocked it.
Cool. I didn't see that. I didn't see Alicia Keys also saying. I didn't see that either.
She did a very nice job until the end when she decided to add some of her own stuff.
What was the number on her anthem? Do you know? There's a time limit.
Don't know.
How's this? The Vegas number was 2:15.
My sense was it was around 2 minutes. Okay, because I know when I did the anthem at Fenway,
you have 90
you
seconds.
have 90 seconds. Period.
For years, my wife and I had season tickets for the Rockettes. The guy who sat behind me, his name is Ray Fagnant. He was a scout for the Boston Red Sox. And as somebody would start to perform the national anthem, as he stood up and they said the first word, he started the stopwatch.
Yep.
And he would say, "Nope, not making it to the big time." Or, "Yep, you could make it in Fenway." Every single night. Every single night. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yep, always had the stopwatch. Ready? Go.
Alicia, on a couple of the high notes, held them out, but it wasn't untoward. It was tasteful, but it was at the end that she then improvised and added on. So
A little flourish.
Yeah, there was definitely a Keys flourish.
Okay.
Which is why I say that it was definitely over 2 minutes, but I don't think it made 2:15.
Yeah, 2:15 was the Vegas number. So.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me how Vegas can and will bet on anything involving that game. They bet on whether
Coin
it's
toss?
heads or tails, right? Who does the toss, okay? And, oh, my God, who scores first?
The house I go to, we sit there. The guys usually have a pile of singles, and it's it's coin toss, it's time on the anthem, it's pass or run plays.
Right.
Every dollar in. If you win, you pull it out. If you lost, it stays. And this goes on. This year it was a little less than normal, but through the first quarter, we're still throwing money down at each other. So.
That keeps the game interesting because usually in the first quarter, they're trying to fill each other out. They're trying to figure out what's going to work, what's not. So you're not going to see a lot of action.
And there's not a lot of gadget plays in the first quarter either because you're trying to get your feet underneath you, and your coaches know that. So,
what did you think about the fake field goal call by the Ravens?
I don't even remember it.
Okay, it was towards the end of the first half.
Yeah.
And the Ravens were back 9 yards.
Yeah.
They'd lined up for the field goal, and it was a direct snap to the kicker, who then ran 8 yards.
Oh.
Oops.
Didn't even see it.
Now, his run total was actually more like 15 because he was way behind the line of scrimmage.
Going left, going right.
Right. And he broke towards the sideline and ended up being a yard shy. That, when I saw that, I said to myself, ooh, that was a gamble, and that could bite him in the ass. Harbaugh, that is.
Yeah.
Jim.
Yeah.
But it didn't, other than that, what I consider to be an interesting no call.
Yeah.
That I would have called a blown call as far as the second to last play of the game.
Oh, I can tell you the what was it? The running into the kicker call. That was not a running into the kicker. That guy was about as far away from him as I am to you right now.
Which is about 8 feet for those of you who are not watching.
that was a flop, as we like to call that in the soccer world.
That's
was
an Oscar-winning move.
Yeah, that's a flop. That cost me money because remember what happens after that? They missed the kick,
right?
Which would have had me at 0-8.
Yep.
Which would have put me quarter winner. Quarter winner.
I see.
However, they make the call. He's allowed to re-kick the field goal. It goes to 1-3, and that 1-8, and that's not. That's terrible.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I hated it.
Well, Brian, what did you think of the game to the extent that you saw it?
I only saw the first half, and you're describing things in the first half that I should have seen, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, watching a Super Bowl and being a new dad, it's quite an interesting experience. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about.
This was like one of the.
I do know that my big bet with Brian Lee was I took the 49ers, he took the Ravens, and I was ready for bed at halftime, and that's where I went.
And just so you know, I got my dad on that one too. So Dad owes me dinner.
Well, I would have definitely taken the Ravens too. I would have had them by 3 points. Wow, I would have lost that bet. They didn't cover.
I took the over.
Nice.
That was what I liked. The over was 47, and they beat it by 14 or 15. So
yep,
very happy with that choice. I always figure Super Bowls are going to be overs. I always figure there's going to be points scored on special teams that normally wouldn't get scored in most regular season games. So
that 108 yard touchdown was amazing.
Yep. Absolutely.
Aside from the fact that there was only one juke, it was the guy that was the closest to actually taking the guy down was the kicker.
The kicker, yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. I think he kind of olayed him, too, when he went by.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to touch you now. You'll go on by.
Olay!
The safety will get you. Wait, there is no safety. Oh, damn.
Stupid game.
Well, it was by far one of the more interesting games that I've seen in years, and I was happy about that. I was happy about the fact that as much as it looked like it might be over by the end of the first half, it really wasn't. And the two people who I felt the most for throughout the entirety of the game was Mr. and Mrs. Harbaugh Sr.
Yeah.
Because they were going to have to console one and be happy for the other, and it's never easy.
No, that's silly. Did we lose Brian?
Brian? I think we did.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, I guess that means that we could actually get to the other news, because this is, after all, news talk.
So the other news, there's only 7 words that you need to worry about right now. Pitchers and catchers report in 6 days.
From Port St. Lucie, Florida, a number of Red Sox players have actually showed up.
Yep.
They're happy.
Good for you.
Not the players, the management.
Right.
They were afraid there were going to be some no-shows.
Mutiny.
Yeah, well, the chicken mutiny was tried and it failed. And it'll be interesting to see what Mr. Farrell does with his team this year, because frankly, Chevenot didn't give him a whole lot to work with.
No. We get to deal with Alex Rodriguez's contract and all the silliness with that. And do you re-sign Robbie Cano? And if you do, he's going to want long-term. Look,
I think that Cano has shown the numbers.
I don't think he's shown the desire to play as a New York Yankee.
Really?
I want to see it matter to you. I want to see it matter to you.
You don't think $10 million a year is going to mean something to him?
He's going to want 20.
I don't think that he's going to get 20 a year.
I don't either, but that's what they're going to demand. He's a Boris guy now. So,
ooh.
Yeah, so that to me means that's a $10 million a year raise, and I don't know that I'm willing to do that. He's 30. So
No, I could see maybe 12 million, maybe 13 million a year for a 3-year contract.
I'll give you 5. I'll front load 5. I'm not going to give you any more than 5. If you think any, no.
Not with the way people are getting injured these days.
I'm never concerned with the Yankees where it comes to the monetary part of it. I'm concerned about the years.
Yeah.
And I'm never worried about front-loading contracts. It's the back end I'm concerned with.
Right, because you're dealing with injuries.
Yes. And age.
Yeah, well.
and they go hand in hand.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Says he who just recently had arthroscopic surgery on his knee.
Right.
I was told by the orthopedist, by the way, that I actually did tear my ACL.
When?
2 years ago.
Okay.
When I fell off the ladder climbing onto the roof to shovel snow off the roof because there was 3.5 feet of it. I grant you that wasn't the smartest move in Dave's repertoire, but there was an ice storm coming. It
Right.
made sense at the time. Yeah, well, it's a partial tear,
Okay.
and it was interesting because they gave me the pictures of my knee both before and after, and I didn't interpret correctly what I was looking at. There was this striated area that looked kind of like a farmland that had where the farmer suddenly sneezed while he was doing his plowing, and that was actually my ACL
Really?
because it's supposed to be taut
Yep.
like a rubber band,
Right.
and this part was part of the tear that had not healed. I had also developed what was called a cyclopsian lesion.
Very nice.
It was
Some
scarring.
type of scar tissue.
It was scarring that looked like an eyeball.
That's funny.
So, and they ground that down. So I'm actually feeling a lot better in my knee. And the doctor said today, well, so what kind of sports do you like to do? I said, well, I like to run, although that's more like a jog. I also like to row. Really? I said, yeah, and I like to ski. Really? General skiing or mad-ass mogul? Okay, first of all, I'm not used to my doctor using salty language.
Oh, no, that's a technical term.
Oh, yeah. I said general, please. I said I'm 2 years beyond doing any kind of mogul, mad-ass or otherwise. He said, good. I think then you don't need to think about additional surgery because if we did do additional surgery, it would be big surgery.
So do they want to go in? Did they tighten up the ACL? It
No,
is still
They
a
cannot do
partial?
that arthroscopically.
Okay. So it's still a partial tear.
Correct.
Okay.
And the PT that they want me to do is going to build up on my quadriceps, which will aid the stability of the joint and take some of the pressure off of the ACL. Okay.
You
So-
don't really need the ACL. You can walk without it.
Right.
So
I would like to be able to ski so that there's at least one thing that I can do with my son in the wintertime, he who snowboards anywhere and all the time. So
are you a fan of cross country or no?
I'm okay with cross country, but I feel the need for speed,
Okay. As I'm not a winter sports person, so I'm not a skier or snowboarder or any of that. My favorite winter sport is whiskey.
And you live where?
That's why I stay home.
Just saying. Okay. I know that I had posted on Facebook that we would be discussing a few serious things. We had to get this out of the way because it is 6 days to pitchers and catchers.
God
and,
bless.
And thank God for that. Otherwise, I probably would be slowly going insane. And it was the third largest televised event. It was the third most watched televised event last night, Sunday night. So we did have to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, of course.
It had a 29.4 share, which is huge.
That's big.
It's huge. And the two that it couldn't beat were also Super Bowl games.
Okay.
Big shock, surprise.
I think you cover two enormous markets. San Francisco is a big market.
It's huge.
And
It's huge.
and that's going to carry your West Coast audience.
Yep.
And Baltimore, with the Ray Lewis story,
Oh, yeah.
is going to cover your East Coast. And
Greater
then it's-
Washington
Absolutely.
is itself a decent-sized
Yeah,
market.
that's a pretty good market. And people,
Northern Virginia, Washington, all
plus
of Maryland.
You're also going to carry the Miami market because of Ray's ties to the U.
Yep.
And just the average fan, you either like him or you hate him, and you're going to watch to see him either win or lose.
And you are going to have a classic East Coast, West Coast draw to begin with. So
Plus, it's a cool story with the brothers against
Oh,
each
yeah.
other, and
the Harbowl.
Yeah, I thought it was a interesting game, fun game, great second half, fun game.
We are dealing with games of a different sort with our state legislature, nonetheless.
Okay,
And not the least of which is the budget situation. And there is an interesting set of bills that are coming up. And a good friend of mine who was my political manager for the ill-fated probate court race has signed up as a assistant for this advocacy group called, Compassion and Choices. Compassion and Choices are the leading advocacy group for assisted suicide. And he put me in touch with these folks. I've liked them. That's the extent that I've gone towards being supportive. But the issue of assisted suicide and the right to die with dignity is now making its way through the legislature. Back in 2009, we had our first physician-assisted suicide bill that never made it out of committee.
Okay.
It was sent to the Judiciary Committee. They never raised it, and therefore it could never be debated, and it just died an ugly death. This year, there are 3 bills, and 2 of them are going to 2 different committees. And Representative Betsy Ritter, who's a Democrat from Wallingford, said that her bill is actually going to the Public Health Committee. So it already is being tracked differently than the previous attempt.
Where did the last bill go again?
Judiciary.
Okay.
Senator Ed Meyer has also presented a physician-assisted suicide bill that has gotten tracked to the Judiciary Committee,
Okay.
where it may or may not languish. Senator Meyer
Do we
is
know what
a
the
prominent
differences
member of the Judiciary Committee, so who knows? There isn't apparently that much difference between the 2 bills,
Okay.
other than one's being raised in
Just
the
the way
House
they're being pushed.
and the other's being presented in the Senate.
Okay.
But Representative Ritter has indicated that the Public Health Committee will be raising the bill, meaning that it will actually get debated. So regardless of what happens in the Judiciary Committee, it's going to get debated. And on the other side of the fence,
If we hear that this is going to be a public debate, and you hear anything about it, I would like to know, because I would like to hear it. And if it's something where we can go, I would love to listen.
I'm going to be following this.
This
I will
is
be
something I'm very
keeping
interested
everybody
in. So
apprised.
yeah. Okay.
And one of the reasons why is that I have had 2 elderly relatives who were dealing with short-term life expectancies, who were in their 90s, and frankly, I'm not sure that they would have chosen physician-assisted suicide. But given the way that they went, particularly my uncle, who was my uncle by marriage, who I still felt a strong kindredship to, it wasn't pretty. And this guy was a Navy World War II vet. He deserved better than what we were able to give him.
You sent me the show notes earlier this evening, and while my music was playing and I was doing some prep work for this, you hit on the very first word that I wrote on the top of my page: dignity.
Yep.
Dignity. My God.
We
That's all.
treat our dogs, our horses, our cows better than we treat our senior citizens.
Quality of life.
Yep.
And dignity. Those are really the only 2 things. I don't know. What else do you have? What else do you have, folks?
Now, Senator Michael McLaughlin, Republican from Danbury, has proposed a bill in the Senate that would establish a minimum mandatory jail term for manslaughter in the 2nd degree for doctors who assist another person's suicide. That also is being tracked with Judiciary. It'll be interesting to see how Senator Myers and Senator McLaughlin's bills are treated, whether they are brought together as part of the debate or not, because it really is 2 sides of one coin going there. Right now, it is manslaughter in the 2nd degree if you assist someone in committing suicide. And it is not limited to physicians. Basically, anybody who helps can be charged with second-degree manslaughter. There was a gentleman who was in his mid-40s who was charged with this from West Hartford because he had helped his father basically use a Dr. Kevorkian CO device. And ultimately, the prosecutors dropped the case. But for a while, he was charged with second-degree manslaughter. That's a felony.
Right.
Do we really want to be doing that to folks who are ostensibly acting either out of a familial love and responsibility, or acting out of a responsibility by their profession? The doctors are no longer required to take the Hippocratic Oath.
Okay.
The Hippocratic Oath basically is do no harm.
Right.
Where I would get into an argument with someone is allowing someone to choose how they are going to die, and thus die with a certain modicum of dignity and control, as opposed to using heroic measures to keep them alive.
Right.
And whether or not I love life. I think living is a great thing. I am a big proponent of living.
It's better than the option.
It is better than the option, except under certain circumstances.
True.
And I wonder whether or not heroic measures under certain circumstances is actually doing harm, as opposed to allowing a person to quietly go gently into that good night.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I'm totally with you on this one.
Now, Peter
if
Wolf,
somebody is brain dead and they're not coming back, honestly, sometimes the body will continue to fight.
Mm-hmm.
But, and you can keep them on life support as long as you want, and the body will continue to fight. But there's just nothing there.
The legislature,
so again, quality
however,
of life.
the bills that are before the legislature today, however, are where you are competent to make a decision, and you proactively make that decision.
Okay.
So someone who is in a persistent vegetative state
Right.
isn't able to make that call.
that decision. Okay.
So, and should the legislation include that query? I don't take a position on that in particular, because I can think of instances where maybe it wasn't such a great idea. I can think of instances where it would. Peter Wolfgang, who is the executive director of Connecticut Family Institute, has said that this issue cuts across the normal divide of pro-life and pro-choice politics. He believes that trying to keep a person alive by extraordinary means is not a good thing, but neither is hastening a person's death. He believes that this is why a similar measure in Massachusetts failed last year by a 51 to 49% vote. It was an initiative. Connecticut doesn't have initiatives. We can't make that choice by the electorate. It's got to be done by the legislature. The president of Compassion and Choices, Barbara Lee Coombs, said that the reason the Massachusetts measure failed was because the opponents to the bill outspent the proponents by a 5-1 margin, and that the way that the ads were crafted, it was, hey, this is a good idea, but this bill isn't. And that was the reason for the bill not passing in Massachusetts. However, she notes that more and more people, particularly of the baby boom age, are now seriously thinking about this and are actually willing to talk about it, which is why it's good that we are having these bills actually not only in front of the legislature, but hopefully going to be debated.
Debated, absolutely.
Now, we're going to take a very brief break and pay some bills. But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about a story that I started last week that has a very interesting follow-up. And we'll also talk about things budgetary. Yippee. I know. Hold tight, folks.
Woo!
We'll be right back.
Click, load, listen on the horn. onthehorn.com.
Budwitz and Meyerjack PC is a large Connecticut-based CPA firm with offices in Cheshire and Farmington, Connecticut. Large enough to handle engagements of enterprises with annual revenues in excess of $100 million, yet small enough to cater to smaller businesses and individual clients who expect personalized attention from partners and staff. Client service is the cornerstone of our practice. Our clients have a fixed fee for their audit and tax work. What this means to the client is we're approachable. Personal communication and client services make for strong relationships. Budwitz and Meyerjack, certified public accountants.
Sandits Travel for business and leisure. We'll take you there. Sandits Travel has been proudly serving Connecticut since 1960. That's over 50 years. And we're ready for another 50 years of superior service. Whether you prefer to come in, call in, or log on, we invite you to explore how efficient, diverse, and fun it is to book through Sandits Travel. Save your money and your time with us. Sandits Travel. We'll take you there.
We are also brought to you by Deepwater Seafood of Avon. Have you been to the only fish market in Farmington Valley? Deepwater is located on Route 44 and is open 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. One of the best things about Deepwater is their fish are fresh. 3 deliveries daily to meet your needs. Deepwater has a menu of grilled fish items, scampi, fish and chips, soups, bisques, and chowders. For your catering needs, authentic paella, cedar plank salmon sides, and always the traditional New England clam bake. Yes, you can have a clam bake in February. Believe me, it'll be worth it. Deepwater also has the very best shrimp cocktail that you'll find anywhere. Call in your order at 860-676-9657, and they'll have your order ready for pickup when you arrive. Deepwater Seafood of Avon, not just for the halibut. We are also brought to you by CentralCTDental.com. Doctors Camp, Sanborn, Lupini for serious issues or routine checkups go nowhere else. Easy to get to on the Farmington-Plainville line. Call 860-747-5761 or make an appointment online at CentralCTDental.com. Okay, we're back with some more interesting news about a particular judicial nomination. As I mentioned last week, one of the nominees for the Superior Court bench that was promoted by Governor Malloy was Attorney Shelley Marcus. She's a Branford attorney with 20 years of private practice who also happens to be the daughter of former State Democratic Chair Edward Marcus. And she's been nominated to the Superior Court bench. Now, it's not a lifetime gig. You have to be re-upped every 8 years. Unlike the federal court, where you get nominated, you get approved, you're there for life. Attorney Marcus's name has been mentioned prominently in a criminal trial in Hartford at the federal district court involving what's called gifting tables, which both the former state attorney general, now Senator Richard Blumenthal, and the current state attorney general, George Jepsen, have both called a, quote, Ponzi scheme, end quote. Others have said, well, it's not so much a Ponzi scheme, but it is a pyramid scheme.
I love the differentiation there.
Yeah, really. Really. Attorney Shelley Marcus is alleged to have reviewed and amended the guidebook for the gifting program, as well as previous witnesses testifying last week that she also said they were legal. Attorney Marcus has refuted these allegations in her testimony yesterday. That's right. She and her father were both on the stand yesterday, called by the government, and there was some interesting cross-examination going on between Attorney Norm Pattis and Attorney Einhorn, both who represent the primary defendants in this criminal case. The senior Attorney Marcus testified yesterday also, indicating that they had not provided tax advice to their clients. Attorney Shelley Marcus made it a point that they never provided tax advice. However, on the cross-examination, it was pretty clear that Attorney Pattis wasn't having anything of that, because he basically said you were essentially providing advice as to one aspect, but not another. How does that make sense? Well, one of the things that is putting the handwriting on the wall was this last Saturday, Attorney Marcus did tell reporters on the record that she did not tell the Judicial Selection Commission, nor did she tell the governor of her potential involvement in this case, which is interesting because she was subpoenaed several months ago by both sides.
This is where I have a question for you.
Yes.
Because I was reading this as you were going to our friends with the leisure and all that in the commercial. Is she required to tell them that she was going to trial?
She is.
I'm sure you would want to dot your I's and cross your T's when you're going to these kind of things. Is she required by law to tell them?
She is not required by law, but she is required by the rules of procedure for the Judicial Selection Commission to do so.
Shouldn't they have known?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just checking.
There is a 28-page application that you have to fill out. I'm sorry, it's 24 pages. It can be longer if you have additional information that you need to include.
And you would fill this out when you are nominated?
You would fill this out in order to be interviewed by judicial selection.
Okay.
And if they voted positively, you would then be put on the approved list.
Okay.
They will ask you the same question that is on the application at the interview. And that question is, I think, question number 34 or 35.
We may want to move that up a little higher. Are you potentially on trial?
No. The question is there anything in your past or that you are dealing with currently that could provide an embarrassment to the governor should he nominate you? Being under subpoena as a primary witness in a criminal trial definitely qualifies for a yes answer to that question. Now, as I said, they will verbally ask you that at the interview again, and you are answering these questions under oath.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking you have to put yes, so that would go into this pile over here, which would be okay, no.
Now, the other thing that they make abundantly clear to you is, and they say this to you in case they vote positively for your name being on the approved list, you understand that you have a continuing obligation to inform the governor of any situation that might impact your nomination. The fact that Attorney Marcus has gone ahead and said that she did not tell judicial selection and she did not tell the governor is, I believe, a precursor to her falling on her sword should there be a guilty verdict in the criminal trial. Because keep in mind, she's only a witness.
Right.
She is not on trial.
Right.
But if the jury finds in favor of the government's case, it will be essentially that the jury didn't give a lot of weight of credibility to either of the Marcus's testimony. This would not bode well for said nomination.
I wouldn't think so. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, shouldn't they have known that?
Absolutely.
When she had been nominated?
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Okay.
What happens is the governor's office will call you and say, hold please, the governor would like to talk to you. Hi there, Attorney so-and-so. It's Governor Malloy. Just wanted you to know that I am considering having your name put in a nomination. That's the time that Attorney Marcus should have said, Governor, thank you very much. I am deeply honored. I'm not sure that would be a good idea at this time.
Okay.
That would have been before the nominations were made public.
Right.
Okay? That is the time that you tell the governor. And that call is normally made about a week in advance. So she sure as heck knew that she was under subpoena by both the government and the defense in this particular federal criminal trial. So I don't think that nomination is going to do very well. And the governor, if she doesn't, will likely then remove her name if she doesn't do it herself. Now, I think they're both waiting to see whether or not there was an acquittal
Right.
or a conviction.
How long will we know when the people who have been nominated get to take their positions?
They have to go through the state legislature
Mm-hmm.
for the consent of the legislature. You are first interviewed by the Judiciary Committee. One would assume that they would be dealing with the testimony in front of the Judiciary Committee probably within the next few weeks. Okay?
Okay.
And then it would have to go in front of the full House and Senate.
Okay.
And that could be a month from now. Now that is a guess, but it's an informed guesstimate.
Okay.
Given the fact that Attorney Marcus is dealing with this kerfuffle, to put it mildly, one would assume that she would be one of the last ones interviewed. Just saying. Now, last but not least, the governor is going to be presenting his budget to the state legislature tomorrow. It will be a joint session, and it will not be like his State of the State address where he was presenting the goals of what he would like to do. This will be the actual outline, the blueprint of what he wants to do and how he's going to pay for it. More to the point, how we are going to pay for it. Now, to set the table properly for this one, we got to understand a few salient facts. One, this year's budget, the one that ends on June 30th, right now is projected to have a $140 million deficit. That is $51 million less than what would be necessary for the legislature to then initiate mitigation plans.
Okay.
But if spending was to continue to increase and if revenues were to continue to decrease at the rates that they have been, we might actually be dealing with that come April. That's Dave's prognostication.
Okay.
What jiggers that a little bit is the fact that there is currently a state hiring freeze, which was initiated last week by Ben Barnes. And he is the person he's the director in charge of the Office of Policy and Management that does the budgeting for the governor's office. State Comptroller Kevin Lembo is the guy who's told us that we're dealing with $140 million in deficit right now as things stand, if nothing else changes. What Comptroller Lembo also said the other day, however, was that one of the reasons why revenue projections have been down is that certain things like sales tax, etc., have slowly been going down, and certain revenue streams like the income tax have not been as high as they thought it might be. That, however, could change as of April 15th, once everybody not only does their filing, but also, presuming they actually owe taxes, they're paying as well. So you could have a revenue spike come April 15th, and he said that that is a real possibility, in which case the deficit's a moving target, and there would have to be adjustments thereafter.
Okay.
Also, his projections did not take into account the hiring freeze. So we may not be dealing with spending at the same level because we're not hiring as many employees anymore, and because our revenue stream may actually bump up over the next couple of months.
Is this when we start talking potentially in the state of Connecticut about bringing back toll booths as a revenue source?
That is something that was presented by Representative Guerrera, Democrat Rocky Hill, as a possible revenue source. That has not been formally presented as a bill It's just been an idea that's been floated. But to answer your question, yes, that is a possibility, but it's not going to be presented by the governor.
Okay.
Because the governor has been steadfast in he is not going to raise taxes. He is not going to create new taxes. Tolls would be generally considered to be a tax to use the road.
Okay.
Now, he has also presented to the legislature over the last 2 weeks interesting spending increases, all involving education. Funny thing, our state's dealing with the deficit. Revenue is not what it should be, and one of the reasons why revenue is not what it should be is because we are dealing with an 8.6% unemployment rate, which is higher than the national 7.9%. Both indicate a moribund economy. Economists are saying that there is a gradual turnaround occurring, but as Comptroller Lembo noted, the state is always behind the national trends.
Okay.
Always. But the way that the governor was adjusting his approach relative to increased spending in education was to also bond more money. In other words, borrow more money for UConn in particular, like to the tune of $1.54 million. That's a lot of bonding.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 1.54 billion. That was with a B, not an M, million. Billion. 1.54 billion.
That's a little different.
It is.
That's
But he's also talking about paying that off over 10 years with specific bonds. Who knows? But that is one of the reasons why we lost our credit rating with Moody's last year, because we had depleted our rainy day fund. It's still depleted. We were not fully funding our pension plans. It's still not fully funded. And we were borrowing a crap load of money, and we were dealing with deficits. Same situation now. Will the other two of the three ratings folks follow suit as a result? Stay tuned. The way that the income and the outflow is going, we would have a projected deficit of $2.2 billion. What that means is if the governor is following what he has promised, no new taxes, no higher taxes, balanced budget, increased spending to the tune of about $252 million for UConn alone out of the budget as opposed to bonding, that means budget cuts. Lots of them. And folks in the social services area
Oh my God, yeah.
are scared witless.
They should be.
And they have been trying to prepare for this, and there was in fact an 800-person rally last week in front of the legislature that was essentially saying, don't forget us. Now, I will tell you this. We need to do something about the physical infrastructure of the state. We do need to repave our highways. We do need to fix our bridges. We do need to improve the rail service. That's got to be federal and state money combined.
Right.
We do need to be able to respond to various emergencies like Sandy. Right. Okay? And we are going to be getting more superstorms like Sandy over time. So guess what, folks? We got a budget for that. But we also need to take care of our social infrastructure. Because if we don't, we will have more Sandy hooks. And I don't say that lightly. By the social infrastructure, I do mean our mental health.
Right.
We cannot cut there. We have to increase spending. And no, throwing more money at it isn't going to necessarily fix the situation either. But we have to be willing to spend more money to deal with helping those who are mentally disadvantaged, emotionally disadvantaged, from being from going over the edge.
Yeah.
If we don't, it doesn't matter how many gun control laws we put out there, if someone goes nuts, they're likely going to hurt someone. And even if automatic rifles are not available to them, they'll figure out a way of causing a lot of damage real quick before they get taken out. So I plead to the governor and I plead to the legislature, do not gut the social services, at least not as far as mental health is concerned. So that's basically what we're looking at tomorrow is mega budget cuts. And he's also promising not to cut monies to municipalities, to the towns and the cities, which means that the cuts are going to have to come from somewhere else. Ouch. Don't know how that's going to happen. And all of a sudden, the idea of tolls isn't such a bad idea. The only problem with that is that we lose hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding by putting the tolls up because we're getting subsidized for not having the tolls. Can they guarantee the income that would come from the tolls would be sufficient to offset the loss of the federal funding?
I think the way that we have to do this is we would have to ask the states that currently have toll booths what they're making. How they're are they offsetting the cost that they're losing from the federal monies by having the toll booths up? If they are, well, then that certainly makes sense to me.
State of New York,
Yeah.
State of Massachusetts, State of New Hampshire, all have an Easy Pass system.
Right.
Which means that you are paying less for people actually manning the tolls. You still need to have some people there.
Right.
But you're manning less toll keepers, toll takers, and you're also not creating the same slowdown of traffic which led to the horrific accidents down on Route 95, because with the Easy Pass, you can go through in Massachusetts and New York between 15 and 25 miles an hour.
And if
in
you
New
go
Hampshire,
in Delaware, it's 65.
In New Hampshire, it's 65.
Yeah. When we go down to the NASCAR race at Dover, the toll booths down there, the only people who slow down at all are the people who don't have Easy Passes.
Yep.
So, and that is a current. I mean, it's a 65 stream going.
And I've got an Easy Pass in
we do too.
all of my family cars.
Mm-hmm.
My father has one too. So
if we're going somewhere, we always have the Easy Pass with us just in case.
Well, we didn't delve into the budget as much as we could have, but that's fine with me and hopefully fine with you. This isn't a show to put you to sleep. It is a show to inform you. And hopefully you had fun listening to us tonight. You have been listening to News Talk Tonight. We are sponsored by Amazon.com, Gateway Financial Partners, Sandits Travel, Shipper Technologies, Budwitz and Meyer Jack CPAs, Deepwater Seafood of Avon, CentralCTDental.com. You've been listening to On the Horn. You can follow On the Horn on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm Dave Moore. You've also been listening to Brian Lee. Thank you again for your assistance, Brian.
Not a problem.
And looking forward to seeing you all next week. Take care and be safe.
What you need when you need it. On the Horn. onthehorn.com.